Hello everyone, in today's video I'm going to be reviewing this motherboard. This is a laptop motherboard and it's very impressive because I only got it for £5 and for the price I think it's amazing. Now just to go over it, got a stick of 4GB RAM here. The other side got soldered 4GB. Right here we've got our CPU, an i5-4200 with a cooler on top. Got copper pipe here. Our Wi-Fi slot, our M-SATA slot, and as for the ports, right here we've got a broken Ethernet, HDMI and 2 USB 3. As for the side here, we've got a DVD reader and a SATA. So yeah, this is an Asus branded laptop. It was a laptop, this is just the motherboard from it. And what's really cool about this is that it's got its own NVIDIA graphics. It's got the 840M, GeForce 840M, which has quite some impressive performance you're about to see now. Now that we're on the PC, as you can see right here, I've got this little fancy setup. I've got the power usage in the top right this time. So that's how you know me and Thingy's budget has gone up. It was free. Anyways, let's start the first test, which is going to be Rocket League. As you can see, we are now in Rocket League, and our settings are 1080p on all the lowest, with the VSync turned on this time, as that was the problem with the horrible screen tearing. Let's just hop into a match. As you can see, we are now in the game, and it's running perfectly. A stable 60 FPS, and it's not going above 60 FPS, as we enabled VSync, but yeah. If we turn off VSync here, the FPS we would get looking about only just above 60, so like 65, 64. So yeah, this game's absolutely playable, and this GPU is heavily carrying the CPU. You can see the power usage in the top right there. The GPU usage in the top left. So yeah, it's running great here. Let's increase the graphics and see how it runs there. As you can see now, I've turned up all the graphics onto the max with 1080p resolution. And the game looks great, but it doesn't run great. It's getting around 27 FPS. Just ignore the horrible screen tear, and that's what the game would be like. So yeah, absolutely not playable, but yeah, I mean, someone could play like this, but it's not recommended. I'd say just keep the graphics low and keep VSync on if you want to play this game. On to the next test. Running much better already. As you can see, the next game is CS2. Up here in the top left we have the normal FPS and the 1% lowest here. But as for settings, we're on 720p all lowest, with a cap of 400 FPS, the VSync off. Let's hop into a match and see how it runs. As you can see, we are now in the game. We're getting about 50 FPS, which is not bad. This sensitivity is horrible though. It is extremely low. But yeah, the CPU temperature is about 71 degrees, and it's using about 60% of it, so a lot of the pressure being put on the GPU, which is at about 50%, 60 degrees. FPS though, 1% low is 20 FPS, that's quite bad, but 40 FPS is pretty decent. Let me try and get a kill on here. So yeah, I'd definitely say this is playable, just not professionally, just casual game, of course. 720p, you're not going to see much. I mean, most players play on 960 anyways, so. Now, it performs great on 720p low settings. Let's change it to 1080p to see how it runs. It's Windows full screen, so it changes instantly. As you can see, we're now on 1080p. The screen tearing is now horrible, but it's still getting about 40 FPS, so it's completely playable, in my opinion at least. So yeah, you can still play this without the screen tear, of course. So yeah, around the same FPS, maybe a little less. Let's increase the Fidelity FX quality to disabled, just to see how that runs. Okay, now we're seeing a dip down to about 30 FPS. So yeah, not very good. The screen tearing is still going on. But how would we turn on VSync with these settings to see how it would look for you guys? So see, I've enabled VSync, and this is playable. Still very, very playable, even on like slightly higher settings. Low settings still on 1080p, but I've actually got no performance additives making it blurry. So this is just a plain game. For £5, by the way, £5, this performance is absolutely amazing. £5, by the way. Just 8 gigs of RAM that are on this thing, that's worth about £5. Especially in this DDR4 crisis. On to the next game. I got a kill, let's go. As you can see, the next test is Minecraft. We are on 720p, all low settings with 9 chunks, no Optifine or anything. Let's just hop into a world and see how it runs. As you can see, we are now in a world, and the game is running great, getting about 150 FPS. The settings are low though, 8 chunks, 720p. There's really nothing to be impressed about when it comes to this. It's just only Minecraft, the latest version. Let's bump up these settings to 1080p on 12 chunks. As you can see, we are now on 1080p with 12 chunks this time. It only lowered the FPS a bit, getting about 13 FPS, 1% lows, about 74 degrees on that CPU. So yeah, still running great, about the hundreds in FPS, only tiny FPS decrease which you won't even notice. So yeah, this makes it perfectly playable. Even moving around, breaking stuff doesn't decrease the FPS. So yeah, runs great. Let's bump it up to 16 chunks. Now that we've loaded in on about 16 chunks, there is another FPS decrease, about 30 to 50 FPS. Quite a bigger FPS decrease, with some stutters all the way down to 8 FPS on those 1% lows. So yeah, I'd recommend keeping it at 12 or 16 chunks on 1080p. Mind you, £5 for all this performance. It's incredible. I don't know how I got this deal. It's just a really good time on eBay. Guy did not know what he was selling. So yeah, it's running perfectly. Now it's time for a TNT test. See, this PC is lagging. This doesn't really happen. It's lagging quite horribly as well. I can barely move my mouse. Oh, smoothened up the last bits of TNT. Last bit of the house getting detonated. Smoothened up in the end, but during the explosion, PC was running horribly. Getting like 7 FPS, 1% lows, 4 FPS, 1% lows. Actually lower than that, 1 FPS. And the last bit of TNT, right here. It blew up a bit of this house. Overall, not bad. Not bad Minecraft, very playable. £5. On to the next. As you can see, we are now in our next game, GTA. As for the settings, we are on 720p, all the lowest settings with VSync off. And the game is running okay. It's playable, about 30 FPS, 40 FPS. So yeah, I'd definitely say it is possible to play GTA. Works fine. You know, even when you're shooting a lot and moving the camera a lot, it does decrease in FPS. But yeah, story mode is kind of playable. I'm sure the missions are probably playable as well. Onto the benchmark mode. As you can see, we are now in benchmark mode. The CPU is on about 70 degrees, GPU about 64 degrees, and our average FPS is about 50. The 1% lows do dip to about 25, but I assume if you switch to story mode, it's still going to be playable for the lighting effects and such. Up here next to the Hollywood sign, we're getting about above 60 FPS, not bad. At night time it dips, so that's not very good, but getting about 60 FPS, which is what most of you are going to be playing on. It's only a £5 laptop motherboard after all, so 60 Hz should be fine. Next scene, it's raining, quite heavy weather, even though the graphics are on low. Getting about mid 40s in FPS, 50s. CPU is on the max, 70 degrees right now, at the moment. CPU is completely stressed out, 100%. GPU is kind of chilling at 60. You can see it on the water effects and the lights above the bridge. It does lower the FPS down to about 40. The lighting from the sun doesn't really help either. Into this plane section, we usually get higher FPS, but we'll see. Yeah, here on the plane, we're getting about 70 FPS, which is way above 60. Very stable. I don't know why in this plane part, with all the loading things, the FPS is so high. It always is. Oh, CPU bumped up to 74 degrees there. The GPU went from 50 to 100%, I assume, because of all the loading objects and the windmills there. So yeah, it's 100% playable if you want to play in flight mode and story mode or whatever. So yeah, a game that used to require the highest end systems, now you can just play on £5. The game is more expensive than the system. That's a anomaly. It's usually the opposite. So yeah, it's pretty cool. As you can see, the next test is YouTube. We're on a 4K test video. As you can see on 720p 60, it runs perfectly. No complaints there. 1080p. Still no complaints. Runs perfectly, even if I skip forward or whatever. Does take 1 second to load, but instantly refreshes. 1440p. Lags the first time you boot it up, but again, no issues. Bump it up to 4K. It is a bit laggy starting up, looking in that Asus at the top right. It is a bit stuttery, but if we let it load for a bit, it does balance out in the end. It is sort of watchable, but I wouldn't really recommend it. I'd stick to either 1080p or 1440p. On to the next test. As you can see, the next test is WebGL Fish. CPU is on about 22. It's using the iGPU to render. 1000 fishies, about the same. 10,000 goes down to about 40 FPS. GPU goes way up. 15,000, about 30 FPS. 20,000, by now the GPU is fully maxed out and the CPU is at 70. 25,000, about 20 FPS. And finally 30,000, about 17 FPS. CPU 70%, GPU 85%. On to the next test.